Welcome, dear listener, to another fun-filled episode of English 101. Today, we're unlocking one of the most entertaining and effective ways to learn English, through laughter. That's right, we're diving into the playful, witty, and surprising world of English jokes. Whether it's a clever pun, a sarcastic twist, or a cultural reference you didn't quite catch, jokes are more than just laughs. They're powerful tools for improving fluency, building confidence, and remembering what you learn. Ready to smile your way to better English? Let's go! The magic of English jokes. Learn through laughter. Laughter has always been one of the most powerful tools humans possess. It's a universal language of joy, connection, and sometimes even survival. But when it comes to learning English, laughter, specifically through jokes, becomes more than just entertainment. It transforms into a magical key that unlocks cultural insights, enhances memory retention, and accelerates language acquisition. The world of English jokes is more than just puns and punchlines. It's a mirror into the heart of English-speaking societies and a bridge between the learner and the native speaker. Understanding jokes in English isn't just about vocabulary. It's about timing, tone, wordplay, and often cultural references that require deep familiarity with how English is used in everyday situations. But here's the surprising truth. The process of learning English through jokes can actually be more effective than traditional study methods. Why? Because humor engages emotion, and when we connect emotions with language, we learn faster and remember longer. Many English learners shy away from jokes at first. They hear laughter, but miss the meaning. A simple joke might fly over their heads, and that can be discouraging. But this is exactly why jokes are powerful learning tools. They force you to pay close attention, think critically, and make connections between words and ideas that aren't immediately obvious. You begin to notice how one word might have multiple meanings, how intonation can change everything, and how what's unsaid is sometimes the key to what's funny. One of the best examples of this is the pun, a play on words that relies on ambiguity. In English, we love puns. They're everywhere, from daily conversations to advertising slogans and even in children's books. A classic pun might go like this: time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. At first glance, it sounds confusing. But when you realize flies is used differently in both sentences, you begin to understand the cleverness. This process trains your brain to think in English rather than translating word by word. Another form of English humor is sarcasm. Sarcasm often involves saying the opposite of what you mean, and it's usually delivered with a specific tone of voice. For example, if someone walks into the room soaking wet from the rain, their friend might say, "Nice weather we're having." Obviously, the weather is terrible, but the joke is in the contradiction. Understanding sarcasm requires not just vocabulary, but emotional intelligence and an ear for nuance, skills that develop with exposure and practice. Then there are idiomatic jokes, jokes that hinge on expressions whose meanings aren't literal. For instance, the expression, "kick the bucket," means to die. A joke that plays on this might say, "Why did the man bring a ladder to the bar?" "Because he heard the drinks were on the house." This blends the idiom "on the house," meaning free, with a literal image, creating a surprising and funny twist. Such jokes highlight how vital it is to learn not just words, but the way those words live in everyday English. There's also a deeper benefit. When you start getting jokes in English, you begin to feel part of the language community. You stop feeling like an outsider who is just learning. You begin to laugh with others rather than feeling left out. This emotional inclusion boosts your confidence, motivation, and willingness to speak up and take risks with the language. English jokes also improve pronunciation and listening. Many jokes depend on sound, the way a word is pronounced or misheard. Consider this. What do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. This joke only works because impasta sounds like imposter. Such jokes sharpen your ears and help you hear differences between similar sounds, an essential skill for speaking clearly and understanding native speakers. Moreover, telling jokes yourself is an incredible practice. It forces you to structure sentences, choose words carefully, and deliver them in a rhythm that matches natural English speech. You learn to pause for effect, emphasize the punchline, and read your audience. These are powerful communication skills, and they extend far beyond comedy. For English learners who feel stuck, tired, or uninspired by textbooks, jokes offer a refreshing way to continue progressing. Even reading a simple joke every day can make a difference. It creates a routine that's fun, relaxing, and effective. And because laughter reduces stress, it helps you stay mentally sharp and emotionally ready to absorb more language. There are even studies that show learners who use humor in their studies retain more vocabulary, understand grammar more intuitively, and are better at expressing themselves creatively. Humor lights up different parts of the brain, activates emotional centers, and forges stronger neural connections between new information and existing knowledge. Think of a time you laughed at something in your own language. What made it funny? Probably not just the words themselves, but the timing, the shared context, and the delivery. English is no different. To laugh in English is to think in English. That's the real goal. When you start thinking like an English speaker, even for a moment, your fluency gets a powerful boost. As we move forward in this episode, we'll explore different types of English humor, from witty one-liners to situational comedy, and learn how you can use them to sharpen your language skills. You'll discover practical tips, joke structures, real examples, and even how to create your own English jokes. Laughter may not be the most traditional classroom tool, but it might just be the most effective one you've never tried. So, get ready to smile, think deeply, and learn fast. Because when you laugh in English, you're not just enjoying the moment, you're also mastering the language. To understand how jokes can accelerate your English learning, you first need to break down what makes a joke work. A joke typically has a setup and a punchline. The setup creates an expectation, and the punchline breaks that expectation in a surprising or humorous way. This twist, this break in logic, is where the humor comes from. And as an English learner, this is where your opportunity begins. By studying how jokes set up meaning and then subvert it, you develop an intuitive sense of how English builds and twists ideas. Let's explore a simple joke. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. This joke works because of the double meaning of make-up. In science, atoms are the basic building blocks. They literally make up everything. But in everyday language, make-up can also mean to invent or to lie. The joke uses both meanings at once. This teaches you not just vocabulary, but the flexibility and richness of English phrases. Every time you hear or read a joke like this, Your brain engages in a deeper level of processing. You don't just translate. You interpret, infer, and connect meanings. These mental jumps are powerful for building fluency. Instead of memorizing grammar rules, you experience them in action. Instead of studying word lists, you see how words dance together in unexpected ways. Now consider observational humor. This is a common style in English comedy where the speaker talks about everyday life in a funny way. For example, why do they call it fast food if you have to wait in line for 20 minutes? This type of humor points out the contradictions in our world. As a language learner, this helps you recognize idioms, cultural habits, and how language reflects daily life. Then there's self-deprecating humor, jokes that make fun of the speaker. In English-speaking cultures, this type of humor is often seen as humble and relatable. For instance, I told my wife she was drawing her eyebrows too high. She looked surprised. Here, the humor plays on the double meaning of looked surprised, both emotionally and physically. It also requires knowledge of cultural norms like makeup. When you understand these layers, you move closer to native-level thinking. Let's not forget the power of sitcoms and comedy shows. Watching shows like Friends, The Office, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine not only entertains you but trains your ear for casual speech, sarcasm, and rhythm. You begin to notice common joke structures, repeated phrases, and cultural touchstones. Pausing, replaying, and writing down lines can turn a night of watching into a productive language lesson. You can also improve your vocabulary through jokes. A pun that says, "I used to be a banker, but I lost interest," teaches you the double meaning of interest. It refers both to curiosity and to financial gain. These layers of meaning are what make English both challenging and exciting to learn. The more you expose yourself to them, the more your brain adapts to thinking in English patterns. Listening to comedians or watching stand-up comedy can further sharpen your skills. Comedians often exaggerate accents, use slang, and play with sentence rhythm. These performances help you hear how English is stretched and twisted for effect. It's not just about what they say, but how they say it. You begin to absorb the music of the language, the stress, pitch, pauses, and flow. One great technique is to keep a joke journal. Every time you hear a funny line, write it down. Break it apart. Ask yourself, why is this funny? What words are being used in unusual ways? What cultural references are hidden inside? Then try to rewrite the joke in your own words. Or even better, make your own version of it. This practice builds not only your vocabulary, but also your confidence in playing with the language. Teaching others a joke is another powerful tool. When you explain a joke to someone else, you solidify your own understanding. You have to think about how to describe the setup, explain the punchline, and anticipate confusion. This mirrors real-life communication and pushes you to become a clearer and more confident speaker. Let's also look at comic strips and cartoons. These usually combine images and short texts. The limited space forces the humor to be sharp and efficient. For example, a cartoon of a fish sitting in a bowl of soup, saying, "I'm in hot water," plays on the idiom, "in hot water," meaning trouble, and the literal image. You learn visual literacy along with language, another way to make learning multidimensional. English jokes can also highlight common grammatical patterns. For example, "Don't spell part backward, it's a trap." This joke works on the reversal of the word and teaches both spelling and logic. Playing with words makes you more aware of how they're structured. It's grammar in disguise, funny, surprising, and memorable. Let's try a few more for practice. Why did the math book look sad? Because it had too many problems. You see? The word problems refers both to emotional issues and math exercises. Or, I told my computer I needed a break, and now it won't stop sending me vacation ads. This joke teaches you about human-computer interactions, advertising algorithms, and the double meaning of break. By now, you may be realizing that humor reveals how English thinks. It's not just a language of rules. It's a living, breathing, laughing system. It rewards creativity, surprises, and cleverness. When you laugh at an English joke, you're not just enjoying a moment. You're learning to think like an insider. Some of the best learning happens when we don't even realize we're learning. This is the secret power of jokes. They sneak grammar into your brain, teach you phrasal verbs, introduce cultural logic, and make abstract vocabulary stick. They turn boring repetition into joyful discovery. Even silly jokes have serious benefits. Why can't your nose be 12 inches long? Because then it would be a foot. It may sound like a child's joke, but it teaches you measurement, wordplay, and the absurdity that fuels so much of humor. In the next section, we'll take it one step further. You'll learn how to write your own jokes in English. Yes, even as a learner. We'll break down joke formats, look at successful examples, and give you templates to try. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand English jokes, you'll be able to make others laugh too. Because when you can make someone laugh in another language, you're not just fluent. You're fluent with flair. Now that you've laughed your way through understanding how jokes teach you vocabulary, pronunciation, and cultural nuance, it's time to go even deeper. This part of our journey is about creating humor in English yourself. Writing or performing jokes, even if just for fun, can push your skills to an entirely new level. You stop being just a consumer of language and become an active creator. Let's begin with the basic structure of a joke. Almost all English jokes follow one of a few common formats. The most famous is the setup punchline structure. The setup leads the audience in one direction. The punchline suddenly changes direction. Think of it like a mini story with a twist ending. For example, setup. I used to play piano by ear. Punchline. But now I use my hands. The humor here comes from an idiom. Play by ear means to play without reading music, but the punchline reinterprets it literally, making it ridiculous. If you can learn to spot idioms and reframe them, you can start writing jokes like this too. Here's a fun exercise. Pick an idiom in English, like spill the beans, kick the bucket, or break a leg. Try to imagine what it would mean if taken literally. What happens if someone literally spills beans all over a table? Could that be part of a funny story? This creative reimagining builds your language flexibility. Another popular joke format is the rule of three. You list 3 things. The first 2 set a pattern, and the third breaks it. Like this. I want 3 things in life: good coffee, good books, and no group chats. The first 2 items are typical, relatable desires. The third is unexpected and specific, which creates the humor. This style works well in conversations, captions, or short speeches. And writing your own rule of 3 jokes gives you practice with rhythm, word choice, and punch. Let's talk about puns too. Puns are jokes that play on words that sound similar but have different meanings. English is full of pun potential because of homophones and double meanings. Here's a pun. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. The first sentence is a metaphor. The second sentence sounds similar, but is actually talking about fruit flies, small insects. The twist is in how the same phrase shifts in meaning. Playing with puns is great for vocabulary and for exploring how small changes in sentence structure can change everything. What about writing dialogue-based humor? Imagine two characters talking. One misunderstands something. For example, A. Did you get a haircut? B. No, I got them all cut. This joke twists the phrase, a haircut, which usually refers to the overall process, and answers it as if A means one. It's simple, funny, and shows how literal interpretations can lead to humor. Try writing short dialogues like this with miscommunication or absurd logic. It helps you master everyday phrases and how they can be bent for humor. You can also build humor from contrast and exaggeration. English speakers often say things like, "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." Now, imagine turning that into a joke. "I was so hungry I ordered everything on the menu. Now the waiter won't speak to me." This exaggeration adds character and charm. Writing like this develops your descriptive language and makes storytelling in English more vivid and fun. Let's not forget timing. In comedy, timing is everything. In writing, it's about sentence length, punctuation, and pacing. A joke with too much buildup can feel boring. A punchline that comes too soon can feel confusing. Reading and listening to comedy regularly sharpens your sense of when to pause, when to reveal, and how to surprise. It's almost like developing musical rhythm, but in language. If you want to write your own jokes, here's a step-by-step plan. Pick a common expression or idea. Something like, "I'm on cloud 9," or "It's raining cats and dogs." Think about the literal meaning. What would happen if it were true? Twist the logic. Make the image funny or absurd. Keep it short. Jokes are best when they're quick and punchy. Test it. Read it aloud. Does it sound natural? Does it create a surprise? Here's a full example. Expression. "It's raining cats and dogs." Literal image. Pets falling from the sky. Twist. "It's raining cats and dogs. I just stepped in a poodle." Now you've got a classic joke. You can also rewrite existing jokes. Take a joke you understand, then change the nouns or setting. For example, original. "I asked the librarian if they had books on paranoia. She whispered, 'They're right behind you.' New version. I asked the barista if they had coffee strong enough for Mondays. She said, 'It left last week and never came back.'" By playing with structure, you're learning how to build meaning and emotion in English and making it stick. One advanced form of humor is satire, using jokes to make serious points. Shows like The Daily Show or Last Week Tonight blend news and comedy. They use humor to criticize, explain, and engage. If you can understand satire, it shows your English has reached a higher level, one that's not just fluent but aware. There's also improv comedy, where performers make up scenes on the spot. Watching or even participating in improv, many online communities welcome English learners, can sharpen your listening and speaking skills. You learn to respond quickly, use humor to connect, and build confidence. And don't worry if your jokes aren't perfect. Humor is subjective. What matters is that you practice thinking playfully in English. When you take risks with language, even if it means making silly jokes, you grow faster and deeper as a learner. Also, keep in mind that humor varies by culture. Something funny in American English might not work in British English, or vice versa. This gives you a chance to explore different tones, vocabularies, and styles. Learn both dry British wit and loud American punchlines. Compare, combine, experiment. If you feel stuck, there are online communities, joke writing forums, and language learning subreddits where people share puns, jokes, and comedy scripts. Join one. Read daily. Even reacting to a joke in English improves your skills. Ultimately, writing jokes is not just about being funny. It's about training your brain to twist, flip, and stretch English until it becomes yours. It's about becoming confident enough to express subtle ideas, clever thoughts, and playful tones, all in your new language. And when you do get that perfect punchline, and someone laughs or even smiles, you'll feel something special. Not just pride, but power. The power to communicate with joy. In the final part of this podcast, we'll bring everything together. You'll see how humor helps in real conversations, job interviews, friendships, and even language exams. Because in the end, the goal is not just to speak English. It's to live in it, with a smile. Now that we've explored how jokes are built, why they're funny, and how you can create your own, let's turn our focus to real-life application. Because humor isn't just a tool for entertainment, it's one of the most powerful ways to connect with others, improve your confidence, and create memorable learning experiences. In fact, many language learners report that the first time they made a native English speaker laugh, they felt like they truly belonged. One of the most direct benefits of using jokes in daily English is breaking the ice. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time, joining a study group, attending a class, or starting a job interview, a small, clever joke can dissolve tension. For instance, if you're late, instead of saying a simple sorry, you might say, "I was on time in spirit, just not in body." That slight twist shows you're fluent enough to play with the language, not just survive in it. Humor also helps in public speaking and presentations. If you're ever giving a talk in English, even a simple presentation in class or at work, starting with a light joke or anecdote grabs attention. A funny story about how you misunderstood a word in the past can be both relatable and relaxing. And that relaxation helps both you and your listeners feel more at ease. Let's also talk about exams and interviews. While it might not seem obvious, a sense of humor can improve your performance. In speaking tests like the IELTS or TOEFL, showing that you can laugh at yourself or handle a funny situation in English gives examiners a glimpse of your natural tone. It shows flexibility, spontaneity, and emotional intelligence. For job interviews, especially in English-speaking countries, humor can make you memorable. If asked about your weaknesses, you might say, "Well, I once tried to multitask by eating and typing at the same time. Now my keyboard smells like curry." It's honest, humorous, and shows you're human. These moments stick in people's minds. Humor also builds friendships. Language learners often worry about saying the wrong thing. But when you embrace jokes and light moments, you turn mistakes into opportunities for connection. If you accidentally say something odd, laugh about it. Then try again. People admire those who can smile through their stumbles. In fact, sharing laughter is one of the fastest ways to build trust. Neuroscientific studies show that laughter triggers feel-good chemicals in the brain, creating bonds between people. When you laugh with someone, even across cultures, you form a bridge. In English, that bridge lets you cross into deeper, more personal communication. Of course, you'll also encounter situations where understanding a joke shows your level of cultural awareness. Imagine you're watching a sitcom and everyone laughs at a joke, but you don't get it. That's okay. Use that moment as fuel. Write it down. Look it up. Discover what made it funny. Over time, you'll begin to feel the rhythm of English humor. For example, in American English, sarcasm is common. Someone might say, "Oh, great, another Monday," with a sigh. They're not happy. It's the opposite. Understanding tone and sarcasm adds depth to your comprehension. You begin to notice not just what is said, but how it's said. British humor, in contrast, is often dry, self-deprecating, and understated. A Brit might say, "Well, that went surprisingly well, after something goes horribly wrong." It's about the contrast between words and reality. Getting these subtleties gives your English a new level of maturity. And don't forget about timing and cultural appropriateness. Just because something is funny in one language doesn't mean it translates. Some jokes may seem offensive or confusing. It's okay to be cautious. With time and observation, you'll learn what's acceptable where. Now, let's look at how to keep humor alive in your learning process. One great strategy is to build a humor journal. Each day, write down one funny thing you heard, read, or thought. Maybe a pun from a TV show. Maybe a joke you wrote yourself. Maybe a funny phrase you misunderstood. These small records become a treasure trove of vocabulary and context. You can also use social media humor accounts, especially meme pages, comic strips like Garfield, or short English skits on platforms like YouTube or Instagram. Follow a few that match your taste. Not only will you enjoy the process, but you'll also absorb expressions and rhythms you wouldn't learn from textbooks. If you're feeling bold, join English-speaking forums where people share jokes, like Reddit's R-Jokes. Try translating a joke from your native language into English. Can you make it work? If not, can you explain why it doesn't? That analysis builds deeper understanding. You could also record yourself telling a joke, then listen back. Are your pauses natural? Is your pronunciation clear? Are you emphasizing the punchline? Do it again and again. This practice, while fun, dramatically improves speaking fluency and control. For those interested in deeper learning, you might even read books on humor in English. Authors like Mark Twain, David Sedaris, or Tina Fey offer humorous insights into life through storytelling. Their writing introduces idioms, tone, sarcasm, and style in ways that entertain while they educate. And here's a secret tip. Use jokes as flashcards. Instead of boring word lists, create cards with short jokes that feature your target word. Every time you review it, you'll smile and remember it better. In fact, research shows that when learning involves emotion, like amusement or surprise, it becomes more sticky in the brain. So even if your goal is to master business English or academic writing, a little humor accelerates the journey. So, what happens when you dedicate yourself to learning through laughter? You stop dreading difficult grammar rules. Instead, you play with them. You stop fearing pronunciation mistakes. Instead, you use them to make friends. You stop viewing English as a mountain to climb and begin seeing it as a dance to enjoy. Because every time you get a joke, make someone laugh, or create a moment of surprise, you're not just speaking English. You're living it. Humor proves that your English is not just functional. It's flexible, fluent, and full of life. So, go ahead. Crack a joke. Smile at a pun. Write your own comedy sketch. Try something playful. And remember, the more you laugh, the more you learn. Because when English becomes fun, fluency follows. And there you have it, your journey through the joyful world of English humor. From cracking puns to catching cultural clues, laughter can be your best language teacher. So the next time you hear a joke or even make a language mistake, don't panic. Just laugh. Because every giggle brings you one step closer to real fluency. Thanks for listening to English 101. And don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with your friends, and let us know, what English joke made you laugh the most? Until next time, keep laughing and keep learning.